Today, we're interviewing Justin Castillo.
I'm an emerging filmmaker.
Before we start this episode, we want to do a quick disclaimer. This is a mental health podcast and we are not professionals. These are our opinions and personal experiences on mental health. That being said, we do discuss sensitive subjects.
This is our official trigger warning for our episodes. We are a mental health podcast, and we did want to give a trigger warning to any viewers or listeners that may be sensitive to any topics we might bring up. We do not hold back on the podcast. We will be discussing every corner and in and out, the dark and light sides of mental health, mental illness, and those struggles. So thank you for tuning in. This is your final trigger warning.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning back in the next episode of the Bottomrockpodcast. We're your hosts, Dom.
I'm Kelsey.
And today, we're interviewing Justin Castillo.
What's up, guys?
How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am 27 years old. I'm from Florida, and I'm an emerging filmmaker.
Oh.
This is The Last Order is like your directorial debut. It's your first, it's a short film.
It's a short film called The Last Order. I co-wrote and co-directed it with my friend Cherokee. I've dabbled in film before with like script editing. I've done some prop work and stuff like that. But all of this is within like the last year. Yeah, kind of went overboard once I decided I wanted to get back into film, and I picked up like 3 projects at once.
That's kind of what I did like recently when I realized I was like, actually, I like the creative world, and I picked up like several projects, and then I was overwhelmed.
It's like you have this like hunger in you, and you're like, oh, I need this, and then you kind of just like latch onto it as much as possible.
Yeah, the moment I started recognizing that's what I actually wanted to do and like actually doing it, it like immediately fulfills you. Like you immediately feel like fuller, and like when you're in alignment with what you want to do and like your actual passion, I feel like you're like, oh wow, this feels perfect. Like it feels like a fit.
Yeah, it's a different stress.
Absolutely. And I know she in particular would tell me all the different deadlines that she had to hit, and she was like, I just picked up this new project. I was like, what about the last project?
And I was like,
what do you need?
I got overwhelmed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. But again, it's like a different stress. Like
It's like
me
good.
and my job, I'm stressed. I'm like, fuck, I hate this.
Yeah.
But then me like running around having like 12 people in my house trying to make sure like the shots lined up right, like stressed as hell. But it's such
But
like
happy.
a good stress.
It's like a good adrenaline almost. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about like The Last Order. What is it? How did it come to fruition?
So The Last Order is a short film about a man who lost his daughter, and he comes across a book from this ancient cult that says he can bring his daughter back through a ritual. So in order to find his sacrifice, he orders Uber Eats and kidnaps and sacrifices the Uber Eats driver.
The book says he has to sacrifice to get his daughter back.
Yeah, the
Okay.
books, he's kind of losing his mind a little bit through the grief and everything. But it's also kind of one of those things where it's the like the trope of like not everything goes according to plans. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So he does the ritual and nothing goes according to plan.
It just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, there's a bit of a twist. The original story was when my friend Cherokee came to me. He was like, to a horror film, because we worked on a project. It was like a Scream fan film. Did some script editing for that, and we wanted to do like an original work because you were kind of limited doing a fan film. There's this universe, there's an expectation, and we kind of wanted to do just a clean slate. So he came to me, and there was a actual murder in Florida. It was an Uber Eats driver who.
Oh wow! So this is kind of based off of like inspired
Inspired by a true story.
Inspired by a
Makes
true
me
story.
so much more scared to watch it.
Immediately I felt the fear
Actually
like
happened.
attached to you.
Yeah, guy was on the phone with his wife, goes, oh, I'm on The Last Order, I'll call you right back. And then he's never heard from him again. And it wasn't like a ritual or anything like that. It was just somebody like just brutally murdered this man and robbed him.
Wow.
But we wanted to take it past that. We wanted to kind
I
of...
didn't know that. I worked on the set with you as like a crew member actually, and I didn't even know that until just now that it was like inspired by that. That's crazy.
Yeah, the initial like rehearsals, we kind of like were talking about whether or not to bring that in. We did eventually tell like some of the actors about it. just because we also want it to be like our own world.
Yeah.
I think that's what draws people in nowadays, like even beyond film, like
Yeah.
having like a vibe that is completely unique to like this brand or this film, this movie, everything like that.
Literally creating like this whole world to be in. That's kind of like the beauty of art. It's one of my favorite parts of art is like you get to create just this whole thing to be in because life kind of sucks when it's real. So we just make our own world to like disappear into. And that's one of my favorite things about art.
Yeah. But I also think this world kind of sucks to be into.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like we make our own.
That's why we started this podcast, to try to change the world a little bit at a time.
Yeah, make our own thing.
Evoke some change.
I feel that, yeah, because it's art's therapeutic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It really helps you get through things.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like even working on scary movies, this fulfills you and it helps your mental health? Or do you feel like the scary stuff can get to you?
So I didn't
do you love
realize
it?
like how much of a horror fan I was until I was like, I'm sitting down with Cherokee and we're at script and we're talking about this, that, the third and horror movies. I was like, oh shit, I know like a lot of horror movies. I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
And part of like the film did come from an aspect of like what scares me. Because I mean, we're kind of tired of the whole, it's a haunted Ouija board, it's a haunted doll, it's some
The creaking, the footsteps.
Yeah, there's certain like tropes, but creating something that's based in like human like dread, like existential dread, like part of the inspiration was because there is an aspect of like, what would you do for your child? What would you do for your loved one? And part of that came from my brother and his wife were pregnant with my niece at the time, and I was going through a lot of like mental sludge at the time. And a lot of like anxiety was coming up, and I was at work and I'm running around and you're on 10 because it's a busy day. And there was a brief moment where I looked at one of the tables behind me and there's like this like 1-year-old like baby girl with the family and everything like that. And just like all these thoughts of like, oh, there's like a life coming in. My niece is coming into this world. Like you have to look out for her. Like we as like a family, like, and just anything that can go wrong and just how much of it is in your hands versus it's not in your hands. And like that set me on like a whole like anxiety like trip of being like, oh shit. But writing about this kind of allows me to like explore that fear,
those feelings,
and kind of like go to the extreme of the irrational to kind of make like the rational kind of be less scary in a way.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, actually. I think that was well said.
Absolutely, very well said. And I think when you really do dive deep into something that is very real and something that's raw, and you portray that into a movie or short film or whatever art you're trying to portray, it gives you authenticity, and it gives you a muse and something that can really shine light on different things in the world.
Yeah, I do like The Last Order as well, because not just because I think it does great with the scary stuff, but the execution of like the heartstrings of the daughter and the dad losing his daughter, and now the mother is losing like all these things. So it's just kind of, it pulls on the heartstrings. It plays with like loss and grief, and I think it's another good pull of the movie that's done well.
And that's one thing too, was that originally like the film we wrote was shorter. Like it was like the Uber Eats driver's murdered, his wife's pregnant, and it's like as after the murder happens, there's this huge aftermath, and we kind of just left it on like, all right, well she's dealing with this now, and
there's just no closure.
And we were talking to a makeup artist that we were trying to look for, and we like explained like some of the heavier stuff we were looking for, and there's an aspect to it as a man like I did not really think about, just because I'm creating just horror. And I was just like, oh well, there's this and this, and then I didn't think about the resonance of that, like how it has like a hand in real life. And then we ended up making the Uber Eats driver's wife, Charlotte, plays the wife. She's Helen Hopkins is the name. We kind of focused on her more and kind of focused on this wife's grief and how she's has to be strong in the face of all this, and like, you know, the police coming to figure out the murder, and then her being pregnant with her unborn child and her husband's missing.
I couldn't imagine that grief. That, I think she executed that part so well. I could feel the emotion in the room as we were filming, and like I love that aspect of the film. Like it's scary, and then it also gets deep, and it's like it's really good. It's a good balance.
I was waiting to piggyback on that as well. She did an incredible job.
Oh, she's been the whole crew.
Yeah, they killed
They were
it.
all just fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember being in the other room and I'm so glad to be a part. Like,
He has anxiety.
you know,
You anxiety?
yeah, I have anxiety with like
So-
really loud noises. Like even when I go to Halloween Horror Nights or any type of Halloween event, like the loud noises always get me.
Yeah.
So when she was like screaming, I was like, wow, that sounds so real. I had to put my headphones. I was like, go to my happy place.
He was like nervous about the neighbors. He was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
And she
But-
she nailed it. As I said, everybody in the cast did incredible.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because she does have that big like scream queen kind of moment, and we would do these rehearsals, and everybody would go through, and we get to the scene where she has to like really scream, and she'd be like, "Well, I don't want to like do that right now. Like, you know, it's a lot on my vocal cords." I was like, "Yeah, for sure. Like, I know you can do it. Like, just have faith in her." And pushed it. And then we were like, "All right, we're shooting next week. Like, I need to know you can do this." So we're in my house, sitting at a table, and we're all going through it. And we get to the scene, and I read the line, Helen throws back her head and lets out like a shriek. And she did it, and I was just like, fuck. Like, you don't ever have to do that again. That was nailed. Like, I was like, oh my God.
I'll take
Dang.
And the funniest thing is, all the cast is so talented. She literally, like, can do that, and then ends, and she goes, oh, okay. And she's just, like, very, like,
This was
laid back.
bad.
Yeah, just, like,
Yeah,
like,
she
silly,
was
like,
perfect.
goofy
Like
vibe, like,
even
fun.
off camera, her charisma and her vibe, I just feel like she was perfect for the role.
so
But
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
She does snap back. She'll be like super scared in the scene, and then like we say cut, and she's like, ah.
And then she's like playing in like the fake blood and the slime we have going on.
She stayed super energetic the whole time, and she was nice to have on set. So
I'm very grateful for all of like the cast and crew's like energy,
Mhm.
just because it's like you hear all these filmmakers being like, "Oh, this is a baby" and everything like that, and they always say like it takes a village to raise a baby, and it's true. Like this is all one. We become like one body, like working towards like raising this thing from
Yeah.
nothing.
that's
And
another
having-
thing I love about art.
And having like those people like collab and having everybody push forward with a good energy. The Uber Eats driver Troy is portrayed by Alex Mendez, and he's one person too where like I thanked him like on his last day. I was like, you had such a this man just can talk, and he can talk to anybody and get anybody just to feel like relaxed and good, and it just brings a good energy, especially when I can't devote my time to everybody, and I need people to still be like hyped and like not be in their head worrying about
Yeah.
oh, is this role good, is this delivery, like it really helps.
That energy is super important to have on set because you're stressed and you're worrying about all the logistics, and the rest of us like are kind of paying attention to you or Alex and Charlotte, who are kind of keeping the set alive. So.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially again because that stress is just
Yeah,
different.
which is a ton. You were super stressed all set, which like you killed it. I feel like you handled me and Ose were actually on FaceTime the other day, which is our cameraman.
Yeah,
Is
he's
that
our
the correct
cinematographer, our
term?
DP.
Okay.
Shout out Ose.
So we were on FaceTime the other day, and we were literally just talking about how we thought you killed your debut. He was saying you're a really good director, and for your first time, like it was pretty good. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, yeah, it
was,
is.
It was nice.
I had a quick question. I know you said you did serving, and I
Serving,
can relate.
managing, yeah, all that.
Absolutely, I can relate to that. I know when you're taking tables, you're going through like a mental checklist, and you have the pressure, the stress. How does that go on set with you having that same checklist, same mentality, and keeping the composure?
I mean, like when you're a server, you have like in your head like a clock going because all right, I just dropped off the waters at table 12. I got like 2 minutes before I have to come back and like check on them, see if they want drink orders. I have to go and check that table. The food's not out. It's been 20 minutes. I got to do this, that. And then on top of that, you also have like your side work and shit, like kind of like making sure your house is clean. That was something where at work I am good on doing just because I like to stay busy constantly. And that was able to help me manage the different duties of being like, all right, cool, we're going to take a break, take 5, eat some sandwiches, have some coffee, whatever. I can kind of do that, but also be like, all right, cool, I'm going to start cleaning up this set, start rearranging the lights, like start.
Yeah, you're always moving.
Just because, again, like I don't want to waste people's time. Like everybody who worked on this film did it out of like belief in the project. And I'm very, very grateful for that because they didn't pay anybody in anything besides like food, drink, and stuff like that.
Let's get into how the mental health kind of correlates to it
Yeah.
all, if you're comfortable with that.
I'm really open with my mental health. Like, I think it's like your physical health you talk about, I hurt my ankle, I stubbed my toe, I got this back pain, stomach ache, whatever. Like, your brain's the one running everything. Like, it's
Yeah.
no different.
Super important.
Like, and also just the tie between mental health and physical health too is just
Yeah.
like insane.
Absolutely. Your body and mind are so connected, like more than we like are willing to admit as a society. I feel like we don't realize how much exercise or movement or body relates to our mind and our mental.
And that's one thing too, like you can't separate the two.
Yeah.
One of the like the biggest things that my therapist, my psychiatrist said is like, regardless of if you're on medication, off medication, are you taking care of yourself? Are you going to the gym? Are you eating right? Are you out in the sunlight, for 30 minutes a day? Like those things that help your physical health are going to make you feel mentally better. And it's kind of hard sometimes because you're so busy, caught up in the cycle of life, you forget to kind of take those moments for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just as important as if you were to take the time for somebody you love or care about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love yourself first.
Taking care
Yes.
of the self-care is like just as important as everything else we're doing in our lives. And I honestly am a big, like, I struggle in the self-care area because I just want to like get to the podcast or get to my sewing or get to what I think is important. And I don't think showering sounds important right now. Or like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, that sounds like so time consuming and I have other shit to do. You know, I just feel like self-care can be so consuming sometimes. And for me, it's a struggle. I know that's weird to admit, but like it can be a real struggle to remember that is really important and key to how you feel. And I just feel like it's a waste of time, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm very guilty of that. Like I'm somebody who like I'll give a lot of time and energy to like the people like I love and care about. But then it's also, you kind of have like your bucket of like energy and everything like that. You start
Like
to
the
dole it out.
pouring.
Yeah, you start to dole it out, and then you look at your bucket and there's like barely anything in there. You kind of have to make sure your bucket stays like filled.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually want to add, I saw a beautiful video one time. This teacher had a jar and he sat it on a desk and he put golf balls in the jar and he asked the class, he's like, is it full? And everybody was like, yeah, it's full. And then he added like another smaller pebble in there and he's like, all right, class, is it full? And then he added sand and then he was like, is it full? And everybody kept agreeing. He kept adding stuff to the jar. And basically the message at the end was, hey, we have this full jar. You guys thought it was full the whole time, but there's still more that you can always add to it. There's still more life to give. There's still more love you can give. And so I've always attributed that to my lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a good message to teach, especially. I wish they taught that more in school.
Yeah, just mental health in general. Like I feel like the societal stigma around it is really gross. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know, like part of it is like generational and just like comes with time.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think is really like cool is like at work, like you work in a restaurant, there's like your older servers, your like mid-20 servers, and then there's like the young bloods that come in. They're like straight out of high school and shit. And like at my job, there was like a group of them that I all worked with because I was like in charge of like the sport and everything like that. And it was all these kids like 18, 19, everything like that. And at the time I started this job, I was going through like a lot of like, this was before I was going back to therapy, I was on meds and everything, and just, it was a lot. I was working like 80 hours, like burning out. And I'd talk openly about my mental health with them, and it was like reciprocated. And they'd be like, yeah, this is what I'm going through. Like,
Yeah.
And I remember like growing up, like my friends, like, I remember one time I told my friend, I'm like, yeah, like I'm just depressed, like it's just a lot. And he goes, nah, that's not real, man. Just like change your attitude, like change your mood, like it's not.
That was
simple.
a lot of people's outlook for so long, and it still is. To some people, think like mental health is fake or mental illness is fake, and it's like it's not at all. Like, yeah, people think it's dramatized or whatever, but it's super important. And a lot of people have that weird outlook of like, oh, it's not real. Like, just feel better.
And it makes it sort of like, to me at least, it's refreshing seeing like these young kids being like, no, yeah, I'm gonna openly talk about the shit I'm going through. That's like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, these fucking Gen Z fucking on their TikTok. They're caring for each other though.
Yeah.
They're caring for like the world still.
Yeah. I do feel like millennials like paved a way. I feel like Gen Z like continued that energy and everything and changed things, and Gen X and boomers like hate us for it. But I feel like we're making like a really big difference in society, and it's honestly beautiful to see young people have more podcasts and videos and whatever they're doing, make their movies, make their art, and not be afraid to do what they want to do or be passionate, and especially bring the mental health awareness alongside that.
and be open about it. That's why I think it's so important you were willing to come here and be open about your mental health as a director, as doing your debut, because that's huge. And I just think that's the way we should go forward as our generations and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like,
I think even in like the pop culture element of it all, like in the mainstream of just like Ari Aster, it's like a horror film director where his I think he has 3 out. Hereditary, Midsummer, and then what's the other one? Beau is Afraid. They're all horror movies, but they're deeply psychological. And I feel like that's kind of what more and more horror movies are. Like, of course, you still have like your popcorn flicks and everything like that, but I feel like the real like horror movies that gain like critical attention are the ones that gain laurels for what they accomplished, are the ones that delve into like
they make it deeper,
the human psyche,
psychological.
Yeah. I am big on that. I really care more for things that just are deeper, that are attached to a bunch of other things, rather than just like surface level music or surface level movies that don't really mean much. I love the stuff that's like deep as fuck. Like it really goes back, and the more you pick it apart, the more it would come out. I love like Interstellar really picked my brain like that. I had another movie, but I lost it. So yeah, I just like deep stuff, like, and when you can kind of pull it back and see how it all connects and it makes sense too, especially when it's precise and like it makes sense all the way through, that's like huge. Star Wars is kind of the one I was going to bring up. Like I love the messaging in Star Wars. I feel like it's really deep. I feel like it's through and through, like what's the word, like correlates with each other. Yeah Anyway, I just feel like that's huge. As a viewer, that pulls me in so much more and keeps me there. Like I remember those movies years later, rather than just like the movie that was cool for the night.
For sure. Psychological thrillers, I feel like, is my favorite
Yeah.
genre of horror. When I get into the poltergeist stuff, that gives me the chills.
Hereditary is crazy.
Hereditary is crazy.
Yeah.
That was, and I love it too. Just the tempo of it too. Like it's so, like I remember like watching the movie and the camera was just so fucking slow, just slowly. And you hear this banging, and then you go and see Toni Collette slamming her head into the attic door.
Oh my goodness, I'll never get that sound out of my head.
My niece started like walking around the house clucking, and I was like, nah.
No,
She's like,
that's it.
I see of the claps in Conjuring. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
And clap.
Same concept for sure. That'll stick with you too. I don't really remember much of the movie, but I do remember that sound,
the image and stuff.
Yes.
I think I've seen it once, maybe twice max, and I'll still never forget that movie. Like I remember all of it, like I saw it yesterday.
Is sound for you, Dom, like the more horror, like horrifying aspect of the movie and just everything?
Sound is what gets me, honestly.
Yeah. True.
I think that's one thing. Like I want to, like we have a GoFundMe up online and everything, just because.
Which we'll be linking.
Yes, we will.
We will. But like I put so much money and everything like that, but then the post production comes, you're like, oh shit, I got to like match that kind of. Because I forget who it was. There's somebody who said they did these test studies of these different films, and they had like the rough audio, and then they had like the mastered and like the good audio. It's the same movie, but they were so more critical and so more detached from the movie with like the bad sound versus the one that spent the time doing like sound design and doing all these like unique sounds and make sure everything was mastered and at the equal level. They were so much more locked in and engrossed in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I love watching the behind the scenes of these people doing it. Like I saw one where it was the Godzilla movie and how they did the noises, and the guy takes like a piece of leather and scrapes it along a balloon and then just like pitches it lower, and then that's like one of Godzilla's roars and shit. Yeah, it's crazy.
Sound is crazy. Literally, speaking of that, the reason podcasters use microphones is because it draws the focus in of the listener so much more. So sound, like, even if you know, like me saying that, they know that now, but it's like it still doesn't change the fact that you're more focused when our voices are in a microphone and clear and crisp rather than just like out in the room. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sound can really change the focus of like the viewer or the listener.
Yeah, I've done like a couple of friends have started podcasts and be like, oh, hop on. And like, I remember one guy I knew, he started a podcast. And I was like, all right. And he's like, yeah, I want to have like 5 people there. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, do you have the mics? And he goes, yeah, don't worry about the mics. Got everything. I was like, you sure? He goes, yeah. Because I had a bunch of mics when I used to do music. And we went there and he had just one of these, like one of the Blue Yetis. In the middle of the room. And then we're looking at the audio afterwards and everybody sounds like they're like fucking a mile away this way, that way. And you can hear it. But when you have an individual mic, it just
That clean
it brings you
crispness-
closer to like the listener.
Yeah, true. It does feel more personal. It feels like you're right there and you can really hear it, like you're in the room, rather than it just being a recording.
Yeah. I do want to say, I feel like a lot of movies that are coming out these days, I don't know if you notice it like with Deadpool or anything like that, but they're just overall louder in the movie theater.
Oh, it's so loud.
I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing or what is
I feel
changing,
like
but I'm
it's
like, this
I'm like,
is
goddamn,
really
like-
loud. Like,
Yeah, it's so loud in the theater.
I don't know if they're just not screening it right for like a smaller theater, or maybe they're aiming it for like an
thought about that
IMAX.
too.
Yeah.
Like, how do they go through all the sound engineering for each theater and all that? You know?
That's like even like music. Like I'll turn on one song and I'll hear like it's there's a Ken Carson song called "Fighting My Demons," and it's mastered, so it's so fucking loud. Like it's just you're right there. The hi hats fucking the whole time. And then I played like I don't know, it was like Claro or something like that. And the song's still loud. I can still hear it, but it just sounds so much softer. It sounds like harsh. And there's just so much that goes into sound design where
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's a Ken Carson song. You're supposed to be just raging and shit like that. And then you put on a Claro song. You're like, all right, I'm gonna chill, sip my tea.
So that's like what mood you want to.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how cinematics and movies and music just transport us to a whole nother world. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Can you get more into like has the scary stuff ever affected your mental, or like literally doesn't affect you? Like when it gets gory or really deep into the psychological stuff, have you had to like take breaks, anything like that?
Gore doesn't really like affect me. It's more so like the actual fears I have. Like I'm claustrophobic. Like,
Okay.
me and tight spaces don't fuck with each other. Like nah. And I watched As Above, As Below.
Oh yes.
Great movie. I felt like I was so slept on when it first came out. Massively claustrophobic movie. And I try to like check in with myself and everything, like my breathing, you know, my like, you know, all that. And I was watching this movie and I was just, oh, I have to breathe again. And I'm just so tense watching that. Like that shit gets to me. There's in like The Last Order, there's a line Charlotte delivers. And it's to me, it's like the scene that's the most like heaviest. And I was just kind of like, yeah, you know, just like ad lib, like go for it. And she ad libs this line, and I yelled cut, and I just kind of sat there for a minute. I was so massively disturbed and uncomfortable by it. I was like, this is horror. Like this, I did it right. Like I did it, but I'm like, fuck, let's take 5 guys. Like,
You're like that ad lib just hit me right in the chest.
yeah.
Which goes to show Charlotte, like, who we're talking about, like, she's really good at delivering lines, and I can only imagine the unexpected, like, ad lib, like you're saying, it wasn't a line you were expecting.
No.
Yeah.
And then again, that was the part where I was like, I achieved what I wanted. Like, I wanted to feel like fear. Like, a lot of horror movies rely on like the jump scare and everything.
Yeah. No, but you want to feel that.
I want to feel like the atmosphere where you're watching this and you leave with a feeling that still sits with you.
I love those horror movies the most. I don't know if you've seen this. I think it's on Netflix. It's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and I think it's a Netflix movie. Have you seen
Weird
that?
ass movie.
I love that movie. It's really, really weird. But there's this part where they're in the house and the dog's like shaking and stuff, and it's just like so uncomfortable, and it's really long. It's like this. It's like a weirdly uncomfortable long scene, and it's like silent. Like there's not even like a soundtrack. It's just so uncomfortable, and I was like that. I got so scared at that part because I was like, they just make you like that. If you achieve that feeling of discomfort, like that gets me.
And there are those movies that really, really like push for that. Like, I watched one movie called Possum, and that was the movie where it was like late at night, and I figured, okay, it's a horror movie. It's about some guy coming back to like his family's house where his uncle is, and there's like somebody like kidnapping kids. Okay, cool. I figured, you know, gonna be some weird, spooky shit, maybe like some witchcraft,
Like, to
whatever.
fall asleep,
Yeah. You know, because I'll watch like some horror movies at night just because, like, all right, it's entertaining. No. well, here's the thing. This one, I'm watching it, and it's like late at night. I came home from work at like 1 a.m, and the movie, like, spoiler alert, has to do with like the uncle used to like molest the guy who moved back, and he's the one kidnapping these kids, and the guy who comes back, he manifests all this trauma into the form of a possum puppet that does not look like a possum.
Oh, no.
It's just
It
like
sounds creepy.
it's like a spider looking thing with like a baby's head on. It's really fucking weird. But the last scene, there's no fucking music, there's no nothing, but just him like crying and then like all this fucked up shit happening around him. And I turned the movie off and I was just like quiet. And I was just like, I am so uncomfortable right now.
Were you by yourself? You're like alone.
I was with my girl and we were just watching, so I was like, holy shit. She goes, yeah, I told you it was fucked up. I was like, I didn't know it was that fucked up. And even she mentioned, like, I forgot about it. I think my brain just kind of pushed it. I did not want to remember that.
That's crazy.
So then I turned on some Bob's Burgers, you know?
Yeah. Light switch.
I always advocate for them. Like, you have to put on something light after you watch something so heavy. I can't go to sleep with something heavy on my mind ever.
Crazy.
And that's like, I mean, like we were talking before we were recording about like the idea of just we like watch and consume media at a level of where you can just kind of get lost in a hole with like certain feelings and things. And it's media is so powerful, like art is so powerful because it has the power to move you, to affect you, the vibrations, the frequencies, and all that. But yeah, like that's like, to bring it back again, like there's times where I'll not watch certain things just because, you know, I might be in a headspace where I can't consume it, like it might be too heavy.
That's smart.
And then on the opposite end too, there's times where I want to watch something almost like to kind of bring me comfort in like the similarities of like the experience. Like I've been doing like a lot of like grief therapy and stuff, working through some past like losses and everything. And Manchester by the Sea is a movie that kind of revolves around a lot of grief and the idea of just family after that. And I just like, there's something in my head that's like, watch Manchester by the Sea, I haven't seen it since the first time just because it's so sad. And I put it on and it was something where like, I didn't realize like I needed to cry in that movie. Like it allowed me to cry and kind of like let those emotions out. So like it's kind of like there's two sides to anything. And just as much as we kind of avoid certain media, there's sometimes where we need that to kind of allow us to realize like it's okay to feel that way, to kind of like let those emotions out.
Absolutely. That's so huge. I'm so glad you touched on that because like we said in the last episode about the movies and the consumption of that, you can do it in moderation. And like we said, representation is important, relating to things is important. But it's just like about knowing your own limits and what affects you mentally. And like you said, just taking that in pieces and in moderation instead of like too much or something you can't handle. But like you said, it's important to like relate with things, let yourself have a good cry, let yourself think about things that you need to think about, have awareness to things you need to have awareness to. And maybe it was a hard watch, but it was worth it. So that's huge. And it's actually, I think we've talked about this before, crying like literally releases toxins and like stress chemicals and stuff. Like literally when you cry, it like releases stress. So it's good for you. We need to cry once in a while.
A little cleanse every now and then.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Like the like there's one song, it's by Frank Ocean called White Ferrari, and that song, like if I'm going through shit, like the last time I was going through shit, I was like with my cousin and I was like, yo, can you just put this song on? Like I just need to feel this for the moment.
Yeah.
And as soon as like the first chord hits and like bad luck to talk, just oh god, and just
transported,
just full sobbing. Like,
Waterworks.
but then afterwards, like I felt better. Like I needed that. And I think it's kind of like that tightrope walk of, yes, I need to dabble in this, I need to feel this, but don't get lost in it.
Right. Don't stay there.
Yeah.
And don't drown. And but of course, like you need to validate your own emotions, let yourself feel them and know that you're going through them, but just don't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I know I'm kind of guilty of that at times too, of just
I can be too.
Yeah.
I think it's easy, just we forget, again, like kind of like you said, like the self-care thing, like we forget the resources we have to where we don't have to just sit with this thing all by ourselves. There's ways, again, like kind of like you said too, with like the jar, like it's not full, you can still give love, like using like the resources around me, of whether it's like journaling or just, you know, reading like one of the self-help books or just talking to some friends, or even not even just like talking about it, maybe just, hey, I just want to like chill with you guys and be with somebody right now.
Yeah, true.
Those are the things that really allow you to
important
escape like the muck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely touched base on that in the last episode about like getting to that dark place and, you know, not only learning to love that dark place and like knowing when you're there, but having a surrounding support system that will pull you out of those dark places, I think is very, very critical for our development and our continual growth as human beings, for sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of us can be guilty of staying in the dark place. Like, it's like you said, it's easier. It's easier to just stay there and sink and just drown in your thoughts or drown in the sadness or whatever it is. But it's harder to choose to get up and make it better for yourself or take a step that is beneficial or caring for yourself. It definitely takes more effort.
And it's like the idea of fixing like yourself and kind of fixing again, like, you know, the health aspect too, just like I'm gonna fix my diet, my workout. I know you guys have talked about this in other episodes too, just even like their friend circle. That can make you feel better or worse depending on who your friends are. Like, are your friends actually there for you, or just kind of like they're here for the good time, you know?
Yeah. It's big.
And I read a quote recently that said, going sane is going to feel like going crazy because you're not used to that stability. And that's kind of like a shock to your body and your mind.
That's so good. Yeah, the way you said that was
And
perfect.
that's like when you kind of take that aspect even to like your friend group and everything, there's just aspects of, all right, cool, like, do I need these? Are these friends really here for me right now? You know, is this really benefiting me? Is this just kind of a more symbiotic relationship? Is just kind of enabling? Yeah.
Right. Like, why are you keeping those friends around? Are they enabling your bad behaviors and patterns, or are they helping you, or are they kind of using you?
Yeah. And I've had to go through that of just, you know, cutting friends off and everything. Like, I got sober for a bit at one point, like went to AA meetings and all that. And there was like a circle of like relatively newer friends I had made within like the past year or two, whatever. And once I chose to get sober, it was something where I'd still try to go out, and it was hard because these people were not there for me. It was, man, just it's one fucking shot. Like,
yeah, and they don't take your
like, they
journey
don't-
seriously.
No,
That's
they
so
don't.
huge.
and that was like, all right, cool. Like, this doesn't like help me.
Yeah.
Um,
And you must not respect about my journey or care about my mental health if you know this is what I want and you're like, oh, it's just one drink. Like,
yeah.
you're not respecting my boundaries and you're not respecting my journey.
And that's like, and even like, there's been so many different experiences I've had of where you kind of hit that moment of where you think these friends are with you, and then you get that like that test, and you're like, oh wow, they failed that test.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow, that's big.
like one
Never thought about it
example
like
is
that.
like I got drugs one time, went out to like social keg, had like
Glad you're okay.
yeah, I'm okay and everything like that, but I had like I think 2 beers, and then I had like a little like mango fruity ass cocktail, little umbrella and all that stuff. And I was with a group of friends, and it was a coworker. She had like a beer, but her being the only woman there, and you see all these drinks, and it's beer, and then fruity ass mango cocktail.
Someone drugged you.
I was just gonna say, by ordering that, they probably thought it was a woman's drink.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
God.
crazy.
And like my thing is like 3 drinks, I'm like fine. It's not like anything crazy. And I had Coors Light.
Yeah.
It's fucking water.
Yeah. So you were like fucked up, like
So,
not
like-
from the drinks.
Oh no, I didn't know I was fucked up. I literally walked downstairs to the social keg because they have like you walk downstairs from pool tables, you can go to like the air hockey, and I'm walking. And then the next thing I know, my brother's waking me up and goes, "Hey man, you're 3 hours late for work." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm in my bed. And that's all I remember.
You just remember walking and then being in your bed?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like I don't remember anything else from that night.
Did they explain?
So like I had to like text her, be like, "Yo, what the fuck?" And like one friend was like, "Ha, dude, you were crazy last night." But like what happened? Like I don't remember. Like I was drugged, and they didn't take it seriously. And then I talked to somebody else, and it was like, "Oh yeah, you know, whatever it was that you were on, like you started being like mean to everybody." Like I hate motorcycles. Like I've seen like just terrible shit happen on motorcycles. I do not fuck with them.
Okay.
And I rode a motorcycle that night. And like I apparently drove a motorcycle in a parking lot. I do not
Oh my
remember.
God, that's so crazy. So it didn't even like put you out like it probably would have a smaller girl like he thought it was.
Yeah, it just,
But you were just fucked up.
It was just enough where I just don't remember what the fuck was going on.
Wow.
And I like then my friends were telling me this. I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I had no idea. Like, did you guys drive me home?" And they were like, "Nah, we just didn't want to deal with you." I was like, "Word, you guys knew something was wrong though." Yeah. And you guys didn't do anything? No.
Oh my God. I was
It's like-
focusing on how crazy it was that you got drugged. I wasn't even thinking about how terrible your friends were being.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because like
Wow.
you can tell when somebody's like I've had a friend who was like like went to a frat party when I first went to college, and my friend got drugged, and it was like he was like, I don't feel good. Like I could look at him and see like, okay, bet. We're gonna have to take care of it real quick.
Yeah.
Right. And as a friend, you're like, holy shit, okay, like, let's worry about this. That's crazy that they did that to you. We've been through similar experiences with shitty friends too. I went to see John Summit at the Vanguard, and I was just drunk, honestly. I think I was like just out of a breakup, and I just was drinking a lot. But honestly, I remember everything. I felt fine the whole time. I was having fun. Like, I wasn't like insane, you know what I mean? So I was just drunk, and my friends were like annoyed with me. They were just like basically kind of ignoring me and like leave me alone because I was like too drunk for them. And then they like went home, and that was like one of the last times we like hung out because they kind of just started ghosting me after that. And it was just like the whole thing felt very shitty. I was like, obviously I got a little bit too drunk, but I was like handling myself, and they were just annoyed with me, and like they were kind of rude. I was like, dude, like I was having fun. Like, what is your guys' problem? And then you had people not believe you before too about how you felt at raves.
Oh, that's another journey for sure.
Yeah, we don't talk about it, but I just know we've been through similar experiences.
Yes, you have. And not believing me and not being there for me, but not believing you is like almost the same as not being there for somebody.
Yeah.
Sometimes worse.
Sometimes
because
worse.
they're there and they like.
And they're your
You're
friend,
like,
and
hey,
they
like,
don't
I'm
believe
not
you.
doing good, and then they're like, nah, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just deal with it.
so
I
true.
kind of went to that festival with people that I've never been to a festival with. And I do not recommend that to anybody. Like, you need to make sure you are secure and safe with the people you're going with when you go
Yeah.
to somewhere you've never been.
And you trust them,
Yes.
especially if you're gonna be intoxicated the whole night. Like, trust the people you're.
Oh, 100%. Like that's like you know, experiment with drugs if you want to do your thing, but like make sure you're safe with it.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Like I've like talked to some people about it because like I'm a big supporter of like the whole thing of like I've seen it like CVS now, they sell like Narcan, they sell like tester strips and shit, just because it's fentanyl and like everything now, and like people are still going to party, people are still going to go and like experiment with shit. Like do it safe though, like encourage that versus then like this whole like don't say no to drugs like DARE program bullshit. Like
Yeah, because people are gonna do what they want to do, but at least just do it safely. Yeah.
yeah, and like you know making sure you have a safe setting. Is huge.
Yeah.
And I've learned that the hard way.
And the tests are huge too, like testing your drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, take care of yourself. Like, that's the biggest part of it,
Make
you
sure
know?
that shit's not hallucinating.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Rock Bottom Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know we want to shed light on a couple of different things before we wrap up this episode.
So I did wear my hat today too. I did want to give credit to Keith, who's doing the art for our hats. We also have our friend Spencer, who's going to be working on the art for the hats and the merch. We have more merch coming. These were just kind of our first couple samples. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Justin, for coming and being open about everything. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
We're so excited for the last order. It's this fall, right? October?
Yeah, we're looking at October 24th at the West Orange Cinema. We're going to have a live premiere. And then, of course, it'll be on YouTube, Vimeo, and all of that.
Perfect. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Like we said, we're going to link everything. And yeah, we're going to be at, what's the theater again?
West Orange Cinema.
West Orange Cinema is where we're going to be premiering the movie. So we're excited for that. We'll be there.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Stay
make sure
tuned,
you guys
James.
get your tickets.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wow.